back, waiting in. There's some interesting stuff on the news. We're gonna cover it. We're gonna react. Try and spin it with a cybersecurity angle. You know, a fair bit about that. Working in that space right now. So yeah, there's been a leak, high level security leak. At first, they were calling it a leak of military plans. I don't really think, based on what I've seen, it's fair to say that necessarily. And I'll go through that in this video. But first, let's watch some videos on this and do some reacting.
And that is the plane of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who, from what we understand, just landed there in Hawaii on this multi-stop tour to Asia. They're stopping first in Hawaii. Hegseth will then go to Guam, and then he will go, I believe, to the Philippines and Japan. According to the deputy press secretary there at the Pentagon, her name Kingsley Wilson. So what we're all waiting for right now is whether or not Hegseth, there he is live, whether or not he will comment on the story in the Atlantic. Remember, he was leading the group message.
Well, of course he will.
In that signal thread. Let's listen here.
Look at that American flag inside pattern on his jacket. Jeez, man. There ain't no one more nationalistic than me. Having a chit chat with his Air Force general, probably.
I'll tell you something. This is a trip that we had. I tell you something. This is a trip we've had circled on the calendar from the beginning. The Indo-Pacific, shifting priorities to make sure we're deterring threats to the future. President Trump's been focused on that.
China.
Establishing the warrior ethos, rebuilding our military, and ultimately reestablishing deterrence is critically important. And so we're out here to talk to our commanders and, more importantly, meet with the troops all across the Indo-Pacific, and then our allies and partners, too, who are going to be a critical part of ensuring the future in this region is free. And so
I've said it many times, maybe not so much on this channel, but China's the real problem. You think Russia's a problem? China's a real problem here, man.
We're glad to be here. It's a beautiful day. Had a full work day on the plane. Now we've got a full work day here as well, and looking forward to it. One question.
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in the Atlantic, and were those details classified?
There we go.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes.
Excuse
of
me.
Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does.
I mean, it seems like anyone who criticizes this administration is, kind of just a stupid newspaper company that peddles hoaxes and false information, right? So I guess that's it. If you criticize the administration, then you're not trustworthy. That's how it works now.
I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through.
War is war, right?
Back, it was purely defensively, or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard
He tried to deflect and talk about the actual attacking of the Houthis. That wasn't the question, man. And this journalist is right back at it. Good on her.
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to
That's
say
true.
about that.
I
Thank you.
agree with that.
The NSC said it was authentic.
And there you have it.
Most of it.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth just landed there at Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickam in Hawaii, saying this: no one was texting war plans there. We apologize. The pool went right to color bars there. He was asked very, very briefly about this. That was the first question he took. And then he kind of went into a lengthy kind of tirade, character assassination against Jeffrey Goldberg, who is the editor in chief of The Atlantic. And he brought up and he referenced some of the previous pieces Goldberg has written for The Atlantic there as its editor in chief. But he was quite declarative there, saying that no one leaked war plans. And so we'll just have to wait and see what other comments from other White House officials are going to be made. We have heard from the vice president's office. We have heard from Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary. President Trump was asked.
We're gonna leave that there. But yes, I mean, from what I've seen, no real uh, war plans were leaked. I suppose there is a certain level of diplomacy that was, certain. Geez, another ad from Brave right now. There is an element of sentiments towards the United States allies in terms of diplomacy. There might be an impact on that with Russia, with the EU, between the EU and the US, but no real war plans were exposed. Let's have a look at the messages here. So I have this on the BBC News website. Um, it says something. This is what I mean. I fully share your loading of European free loading. It's pathetic. Mike is correct. We are the only ones on the planet on our side of the ledger who can do this. Nobody else even close. Question is timing. Okay, so he's talking about staging an attack, or this is a war, right, against Yemen. So, and it's interesting because when you're fighting terrorists, it's a type of war that doesn't require legislative approval anymore. Seems to be the game that's being played now. Um, but yeah, that's not really war plans necessarily. This is calling the Europeans pathetic is quite uh quite a thing if you're Pete Hegseth. So he's the National Defense Secretary. So if you're in Europe right now, as I am, it's kind of like, yeah, we don't have a big brother United States behind us, right? That's some of what was leaked or what was exposed, whatever you want to call it. I think we could find more here. Just do some scrolling. So here's some of it. I mean, just the use of emojis when we're talking about, a huge attack, which some of the casualties were children, right? And surely some of them were also civilians. That's really like twisted to me, man. Look at that kind of emoji uh, when we're talking about that. But that's some of what was leaked. Um, so this was the beginning of it. The first message we saw where Pete Hegseth was calling Europe pathetic. It was JD. It was in response to JD Vance saying, "If you think we should do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again." So I guess this seems like Houthis is a Europe thing. I mean, maybe, yeah, surely if the Houthis attack, make the shipping lanes over there in the Suez Canal, it will affect Europe. I mean, how is this bailing us out? Maybe there's some kind of conversations on the back end. Maybe that's the leak, right? That the U.S. and EU officials are talking about the Suez Canal and a possible, like, NATO military move there. And now it looks like maybe Europeans said no, and so the U.S. is doing it alone. That could be what's going on here. That could be what's being leaked here as well, but I don't know. So yeah, it says here, let's just make sure our messaging is tight here. It's funny that he says that, given the situation. And if there are things we can do up front to minimize risk to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it. Yeah, sure. Here's the thing, right? I want to say first off that Signal getting bashed is really unfair. I think that it doesn't matter the messaging platform, if it's Signal or WhatsApp or Telegram or Messenger. It doesn't matter, man. If you have idiots communicating in a group, there's a high possibility that there's going to be a problem, a security problem there, right? For example, in my case, and this is obviously in my personal life, it's at no way near the consequence of this type of breach, right? But I remember my sister creating a group with a bunch of people, right, in our family, and some of them were old numbers, and so there were, I think, two people who were using numbers that members of our family previously had. One guy was from Morocco, and the other one was, I think, in Hong Kong or in the Philippines in some other region, right? I mean, it's kind of like the one guy even replied in the guy from Morocco replied in Arabic or something, and I was like, "What is this? Who did this? You need to kick this account out and this account out. These are strangers that you're letting in." And we're talking about, like, personal family matters over there, and there's just these intruders in the group, right? So there's nothing you can do. My point is, with regards to Signal, that you can't create an app secure enough if you have these knuckleheads, right, in the group. I mean, what really happened here was this Mike Waltz guy. Oh, geez, these ads are not stopping. Mike Waltz added this guy into the group by accident. You can have the most secure app in the world. If you do that, it's gonna get leaked. So this goes back to one of my theories, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Whoops. This goes back to one of my theories, right? That cybersecurity is not about, like, how much security you have, how much this and that you have. It is really about um, the people, right? Because that's really how they get you. They'll compromise an account, they'll compromise credentials because someone was fooled. Someone received an email and was fooled by it. And so they clicked the link, they entered credentials into somewhere from it, um, and the attacker came in, accessed systems perhaps through this compromised account. So it's a one common scenario, and that's human error. We call it in the industry just human error, and it's the same here. What happened wasn't really a fault of Signal, right? Um, it was a fault of this Mike Waltz guy uh, adding the Atlantic uh, Jeffrey Goldberg into the group, and so he reported on what he saw. I mean, geez, Louise, man. Anyway, let's continue here. So we just saw a Fox video. We'll look at what MSNBC has to say. I don't think we're going to watch all of this.
Sensitive U.S. intelligence. The Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, reporting he accidentally received top-secret war plans from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth after he was included in a group chat on the encrypted messaging platform Signal.
Okay. I guess it's top secret because he knew that they were going to attack Yemen, or there was plans to attack Yemen days before they actually did. But look, man, there has been a lot of activity already. There has been a lot of even rhetoric about attacking Yemen for what they're doing. So I don't know if it's a surprise to anyone that this is happening. I think everyone kind of expected Trump administration to have a more aggressive stance against the Houthi rebels. But yeah.
This just in, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, says he was accidentally texted war plans.
Goldberg was added to a Signal chat with some of the most senior national security members of the Trump administration.
The vice president, the CIA director, the director of national intelligence, the secretary of state, the White House chief of staff, and more, discussing what we can only assume to be top secret plans.
About the planning for the recent bombing of the Houthis that started on March 15th.
He was convinced it wasn't real, that maybe this was an AI prank until the bombs actually started.
That's what I would think, right? If if I was added to a group like that, and I was this guy, and I was like, what the hell is this? Is this really what I'm seeing? A high level group of the White House cabinet talking about this stuff. I would think it's a prank, right? And here's another thing. The Trump administration could have just denied this, and this would have just gone away. They're just like, I don't know what this guy's talking about, right?
Started falling.
Goldberg says he didn't think the chat was real until the planned attack actually took place. Goldberg then exited the chain. A National Security Council spokesman confirmed that the thread was authentic and they're investigating. Folks, apps like Signal are not government-approved platforms to transmit classified information. I think folks would know that. And the fact that defense officials are conducting an intelligence operation on an app is dangerous. Meanwhile, Donald Trump claims he had no knowledge of these events.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic.
That was his takeaway. Joining me now is Larry Pfeiffer, former senior director of the White House Situation Room under President Obama. Larry, it's a real pleasure to welcome you here. I want to throw up for you as sort of a how should we call it, a baseball card, if you will, of.
So, okay. So these are the people in the group. Mike Waltz apparently added this guy. Here he is, Jeffrey Goldberg. One of these are not shouldn't be here. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is super high level, right? I mean, you got the CIA director here. You think he'd know? You think he'd check who's on this group, man? JG? Who's JG? Yo, Mike, who's JG? You know,
The Trump officials
boomers. Look at these boomers.
Huh? Vice President Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, John Ratcliffe, CIA, Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff, Steve Witkoff, Special Envoy to the Middle East, Stephen Miller, senior White House advisor, and Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. So, one of these things that
What's
that
he
might
doing
help
there?
us.
That's what I wanted to say.
Could you share with us why this is a problem? Because I think some people are saying, well, I don't understand what the big deal is. It's a big deal.
Yes, it's inexcusable, actually. In my job as the White House Situation Room Senior Director, I was responsible for managing those conference rooms that are famous from photographs of national security meetings. But a more important job that I had was leading a team of individuals who made sure that there was secure government communication equipment, devices, platforms available for use by anybody who would.
That's true, right? You could have a secondary phone. You could have the secondary phone that, you change the number. Let's say it's just for communications, and you might not even bring it home. You might leave it in the office with a security representative. They might change the number every so often. There would be no identifying information to that number. So if Mike Waltz or Pete Hegseth was using that number, uh, no one would really know, right? You just have to, I guess, reverse analyze it with the communications if you ever got access to it, and figure out, okay, this is this guy because he's talking about this. You could do that. Um, the I don't know, man. I mean, there's ways that you can prevent this sort of things from happening. Obviously, you want to have perhaps a private application for communications that is, I guess, monitored. You can have a sort of data protection, or you could even just have a certain set of uh, devices, right, that can use that application. So that wouldn't even be crazy to create. It wouldn't be too expensive to create. But in that sense, it would be impossible to add anyone outside without uh, priorly speaking to the maybe that security representative or that security specialist. Okay, this person add this device. This person needs a device so that they can start communicating with us. So they create that device, um, and they give it to that person. Um, yeah, there are ways that you can minimize it in that sense, right? It's a bit complicated, but that's just something I imagined off the bat. But really, I mean, to be using Signal, that's fine. But the whole breach here is about someone adding a media contact. Why would you do that? And this goes back to another point that I always make is our leaders, man, they're fools. How can you trust in these people, man, when they're doing stuff like this? Talking high level stuff and adding, the media into like what they thought was a secure channel. It's kind of silly.
Attend these interagency National Security Council meetings at the principals and deputies level. And by available, I mean 24/7 at the home, at the office, in a car, on a plane. So the equipment was available to them within steps of anywhere they were. For them to be using ostensibly encrypted platform on non-secure phones is really unconscionable.
So let's put up.
Okay, that's it for this video. I mean, why didn't he just add Sergey Lavrov to the freaking chat, right?
The U.S. returned to its bombing of Yemen on Saturday, March the 15th. The White House said that the goal was to free up maritime shipping from attacks by the Houthis. But the resumption of bombing came as no surprise to the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine in the U.S. He says he'd
Who's in the group?
2 hours before the attacks began with precise information about the weapons to be used, the intended targets, and the timing. Jeffrey Goldberg had seemingly inadvertently been included 5 days before the airstrikes began in a chat.
Okay, if that's the case, I guess we're not seeing all, right? If he was given all that specific information, that's not something I've seen in the chat, right? Just scrolling through again. Let's see if I can refresh this. Oh, there he is. So let's see what Goldberg has to say, actually.
If you look at the story in theatlantic.com, you'll see that they are having a live debate, including the Vice President of the United States, about the.
Okay, let's have a quick look at this. But Mike is correct. As I heard, the president was clear green light, but soon, Egypt, Europe, what we expect to return. We also need to figure out how to enforce such a requirement. Gee, if Europe doesn't remunerate, then what? Okay. I mean, they're talking about
The utility of attacking Yemen and the European component of this.
a lot of
and
diplomatic kind of
there's some
stuff and
interesting discourse going on, but according to everything I
politics.
understand, they're not supposed to be doing this on commercial messaging apps. They got quite lucky that they included my phone number if they're going to pick an errant phone number. I mean, at least it wasn't somebody who supported the Houthis, because they were actually handing out information that I believe could have endangered the lives of American service people who were involved in that.
That's true, right? I guess look, that's an angle I didn't really look at. Like if they were, yeah. So there is a serious leak that happened, that there was, you know, saying that there's a green light to attack the Houthis. Houthis, if there's anyone on their side who saw that, um, then it could have endangered the U.S. servicemen for sure. Um, and like I said, that just goes to show, um, the kind of leadership we have, uh, just all around, man. It's not. I'm not gonna say it's bad leadership in the U.S. We have a lot of idiots here as well, man, and not to mention in other countries in Asia and Africa. So we live in an era where you just have power being handed down generation by generation, and at this point, we're dealing with people who are, uh, you know, man. I don't even want to say the word, but just the leaders we have shouldn't be there, basically. And that's why you have some guy, one of the most powerful men, a cabinet member of Donald Trump's uh, administration, haphazardly adding random people to high level security chat. It's just unbelievable, man. Uh, so yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this video, guys. Please stay tuned for the content I'm going to be putting out. I do appreciate you. It's unbelievable what we're seeing. It looks like there's a full all-out war going on in the Middle East. So, oh man, look at this guy's face. Um, yeah, guys, I hope you're doing well. At this point, I'm gonna try and get more busy. I've been away for a few days. Uh, I'm gonna try and put more effort into these videos. I'm actually gonna invest in some better equipment soon. So yeah, please hang in there. I hope you're enjoying the comments, the reactions I'm putting out, and I hope you're having a good time wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Bye bye.